Bro, it's like 7 a.m.
Today's the day, Mom. They're posting the cast list for the school play today.
Get it? Like it's a curtain?
Tough crowd.
I've got some breaking news. It's an open audition.
They're making Lilo and Stitch a Broadway musical?
Where would we even sleep?
What about your aunt, the Broadway actress?
You were the only toddler whose first word was me.
Let's cast a musical. Does anyone have a special skill they'd like to demonstrate?
I can do Fiddler on the Roof style knee crawls.
This I have to see.
Mazel tov! Oh my gosh, my pants.
Does anybody have any extra shorts?
I'll make you proud of me.
Okay, Nate, that's all we're gonna need.
Forget New York. I'm just trying to survive 7th grade.
Working hard.
I love that you're still acting. You remind me of, like, me.
You're literally all I want to be when I grow up. 3 weeks on Broadway, an apartment in New York.
Queens, but...
I'm about to go out.
You're 100 times funnier and quicker than I am.
About to go out.
Doesn't he look like the kid that went viral on TikTok?
I didn't know you could do all that.
Find your light.
You're insane. I'm theatrical.
Hold up just a second.
Sorry, I thought we were alone.
You guys are so weird.
We know.
I'm about to go out. Just getting started, we about to go.
That was the trailer for Disney's much anticipated Better Nate Than Ever, which will stream on Disney Plus beginning April 1st. And today I am joined by one of the stars of the film, Broadway's Brooks Ashmanskas. Welcome, Brooks.
Hi, how are you? It's nice to see you.
It's great to see you. First off, how are you and where are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to see you. I am up like about an hour upstate from the city. I got a little cottagey place right before everything shut down, like literally the week before. And so I've been very fortunate to have this to sort of hang in and, a little more space and breathe, but that's where I am, and all's well, actually. Everything's pretty good.
Perfect. Well, congrats on starring in Disney's Better Nate Than Ever. I mean, how excited are you to be a part of this film?
Very, very excited. I have a lot of feelings about this film. Tim Federle, who wrote it and directed it and is based on his book, has been a dear friend of mine for a long time. We did Gypsy together with Bernadette Peters years ago. And I remember he had given me a copy of, like a paper copy of this book he was writing as a friend, just to look at it and, what do you think kind of thing. So I've known about this piece for a long time. I was so thrilled to hear it was going to be made into a film. I think the book was very cinematic anyway. And I just yelled out to be made into a film. And anyway, I was thrilled that I was allowed to be in it. And I think it's an absolutely beautiful film. I really do. I love the movie.
Yeah. Well, this is such a feel-good movie. How wonderful was it to work on it?
It was wonderful on many fronts, to tell you the truth. Speaking of, where we are in the world and the pandemic and all that stuff, after, 2 years almost of, no income, nothing was going on. And that was difficult for many reasons. But this sort of popped out at a very, opportune time on that front. But also, again, because it was Tim's movie, I was so moved to be a part of it, and it was so fun to work on. Had great people that I got to work with, and it was so fun to work with Tim. I was so proud of him, how he handled himself on the set, and the kind of set he ran was very light and enjoyable and fun. And these young people who are in the movie, who are the stars of the movie, were just inspiring and delightful. So I loved working on it. I had a great time. I really did.
Yes, I was going to ask you, how did you get involved? Did Tim call you? Like, how did it all come about for you?
No, at first it was, my agent had called me about an audition for it. And I, did one of these in this room, like a horrible self-tape, those two words put together, self-tape. That's You know what I mean? But anyway, I did the best I could, and I sent it in, and immediately I got a text from Tim. I hope I'm not telling tales out of school, but he said, "Are you kidding? Are you willing to do this?" And he was being very sweet. And I said, "Willing, please." And so it just worked out, and I think it was, he thought it was a good idea. And it was a really fun part. I actually thought it was a sort of very funny part, but also very sweet. I think he loves the kid, and it's I thought it was great, and so that's how it came about, and it was thrilling.
Well, let's talk about that. You play the casting director. I mean,
Yes.
How fun was he to play?
It was great, because I am in this business, or I used to be years ago. I sort of know a lot of casting directors. A lot of them are friends of mine. Some of my best friends are casting directors. But so it was fun to sort of see within the role, there are little clues of, who's being sort of satirized or honored or whatever and appreciated. And so that was fun to sort of decode that, but also mostly just to have fun. To be able to sort of pretend you're on the other side of the table, which is nice, and have that, that power. But it was really a great. I thought it was a great part. I really did.
Ruby Wood, who plays Nate, is a sensational new discovery.
Yeah.
What do you admire the most about Ruby?
Oh, well, there's a lot to admire about Ruby. Honestly, just so talented. So sweet, such a beyond his years human being, but at the same time a child, and so wide open, just an open book, and just even watching it in person when we were shooting certain scenes, action is called, and that face, it just opens up, and anything, whether it's funny, which he's very funny, I just think has it. I think he's a star, and I also mostly admire him because he's such a good guy, just a wonderful, sweet human being that is so comfortable in his shoes or boots or heels or whatever he wears. It's so remarkable, and it's a testament to the time we have gotten to. It's moving to me to see a young person be that honest and open and fun and great, and I obviously I could go on and on. I just think he's marvelous.
Yeah, because you mentioned that it factor. I mean, boy, the camera loves this boy, and he's just so talented. And like you said, you see into his soul and his heart through his eyes.
Yeah, it's the term "the camera loves him." You know what I mean? It's not something that's ever been said about this face, by the way. But but no, he really did. When I was watching the film, I just saw it the other night, and it really is stunning to watch this young person just immediately go and just like kill you with both laughs and really heart-wrenching stuff going on. I just loved him. I thought he was great.
Yeah. The film is also a love song to New York City and to Broadway. This was one of the biggest thrills for me. I'm like, this is what we've all missed. This is why this film is so perfect for right now. I'm like, this is what we've all missed. I mean, where did you film it?
We filmed in the city, which was fantastic and convenient, but it was, I agree with you. There are certain shots, I don't want to give anything away, but there are certain shots where you sort of all of a sudden it goes, and it takes your breath away, because even though it wasn't that long ago where things were not interrupted by this horrible, situation, it's nostalgic in a way of a city that we long to have back fully, and we're starting to get little, creeping back together. And I love that, but we miss it. I miss it. I miss New York a lot, the New York that was before.
Yeah.
And this movie does, it just celebrates that the city and the opportunities, the dirt, the grime, the fun, the jerks, all of it, the extremities of New York, and the glorious people who work and live there. It's a real, dare I say, Valentine to the city and the business. It's such a positive look at it. It makes you, it reminds one who, may have worked in the business for some time, of what our dreams were when we were younger, what we wanted to do and what we're fortunate enough to get to do. It's lovely, lovely. But it was great. We shot at Steps, the dance studio. We did some of the audition stuff there, and then there was like a callback audition that gets we filmed in the New Amsterdam Theater, which was very exciting and kind of weird because everything was closed down. It was kind of ghost towny, but at the same time you started to just being in those buildings, it made you go, oh right, yeah, here we are, New York City. It was great. It was fun.
No, because this is a film for everybody, but for theater lovers, they're like Easter eggs. Like, oh my God, they're doing this callback at Steps. They're in the New Amsterdam Theater, which is now home to Aladdin. I mean, it's every theater lover's dream, and it's going to introduce a whole new world to the theater too, and the love of what this film is all about.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's in a way. I hate when anyone says something's important, because I think the hubris of that is gross. But the importance of this film, one of the many, but from my point of view, is just that so many, I think, young people, but also older people, will be opened up to this process and what it means to the people who work in it. That it's very touching, and also that for a Broadway person or for Broadway audiences, people who love Broadway shows, there's a lot of little treats in the movie that that there are certain people that have been cast, myself included, I guess, who you will know. And it's like, oh yes, and it's fantastic, and it's really smart on Tim's front, really smart.
Oh yeah. Well, you started to talk about Tim. Talk about working with writer-director Tim Federle. You started to talk a little bit about what makes him such a great director. I mean, we all knew him, like you said. I knew him working on Broadway as a singer, dancer, or whatever. Now he's this incredible, Disney writer and director. I mean, what was he like on the set, and just how proud you are of him and to work with him?
Right. Well, he was wonderful to work with. And I think, from my point of view, I think what makes Tim a great director and what makes Tim a great man is his authenticity. And he also is very comfortable in whatever role he takes on. So whether he's speaking to you as a writer or as a director or as a friend or as a co-worker or whatever, he's just comfy and authentic. And so that really, makes your shoulders relax, and you're in good hands, and you trust him. And I do trust him very much. And I was so proud of him, literally like a proud old man, looking at the young guy who did well. I mean it. He was marvelous to watch because he's so great with everyone, children too. And that's a real talent. He never treats kids like lesser beings. He treats them as people who, you need to show up and learn your lines just like everybody else. And not that he's a jerk to them at all. He's very peerish with them, and it's so sweet and fun, and they have a great time. You can tell they love him, and I do too. I loved him, and I'm so proud of him. What he has made is very special. I think very special. I thought that about the book, and so did many people. And this is going to, just blow up.
Yeah, Totally. It's such a beautiful coming of age film dealing with family, friendship, and discovering yourself. You started to talk about the importance of the film like this and what these issues mean to you.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I mean, to say that, this movie wasn't around when I was a kid, that kind of feeling is true deeply, that there are children out there, young people who have these feelings, who have these dreams, and who like certain things, etc., that perhaps have not been exposed to something on screen that says, oh, there I am, that's me. I'm not the only one who feels that way, right? And so that is, to say important is it's an understatement. That is vital to a young person, to see that they're represented and that they aren't crazy and that they are not weird. It's so beautiful, the message here of just, you're okay, be yourself. And that's the best part of you, is your own individuality. You don't need to try to be this or that or that. Just be who you are, and you're going to be okay. And that's lovely.
And
Right.
what do you hope that audiences will take away after seeing this film?
Well, I mean, I certainly hope that on sort of a more, I don't know, a surfacey front, that they just have a great time and enjoy it, because it is so funny, it is so moving, and it is so fun and great and entertaining. So that, of course, you hope someone, loves it. But also, just what we were speaking of before, I hope people hear the message of this very subtle message, I think it tells, in that it's okay. It's okay to be who you are. And there's no threat about it. There's nothing wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything. You're just being yourself. And it's a lesson to all of us of all ages to say, one, be yourself, but also two, and maybe more to the point, support people for being who they are. Support them. It's a great message.
Is that why you think this is such the perfect film for right now, for families and everyone to watch?
Absolutely, Richie. I think, because again, where we've been for the last couple of years has been rough on all of us. And I think, like you said before, what it shows about New York City, it's so great at a time when New York so desperately needs to be lifted up again, and it'll be fine. But you know what I mean? It just needs people to be reminded of what a special, unique place it is. And also that, it's just so funny and sweet, this movie. And, I don't need to see anything that's like, gonna depress me right now. I have plenty of things in the newspaper. We can all relate to that. It's like, I can't look at that anymore. So it's a nice, not so much an escape, but a reminder of how wonderful the world can be.
Yeah, I just feel good movies are so great. When they're riding on the bus and you see the city skyline, I'm like, it never gets boring or tired. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could look at that skyline all the time. And to see it through Ruby's eyes and his best friend who's riding with him on the bus, I just think it's the most magical thing. They're coming to the city as we all did years ago.
Right, exactly. It's such a great reminder. And it really, it's just so, it reminds me of movies I loved when I was younger. The ones that we did have, and it reminds me of like those John Hughes movies and movies, and I was dating myself, but those sort of 80s movies that were like just hilarious. And everyone sort of just tweaked a little bit. All the characters are a little, front, and it's so refreshing to see something that reminds you of a time when you were like, oh yeah, I get that, I get it. It speaks to a lot of people at the same time, and that's quite a feat, I think.
Yeah, totally. Well, this film is about dreams of being on Broadway, and you've done that numerous times, my friend. You made your Broadway debut as Bud Frump in How to Succeed opposite Matthew Broderick. I mean, how magical was that night? Broadway debuts only happen once.
Well, yeah, it was. I replaced in the show, so I had a shorter rehearsal time, and it was a relatively large part, and so it was a lot of dancing, and it was a lot to learn, and I was scared to death. I was scared to death, but because, and I'm just to try to tie it in a little bit, because I was, again, I had great, very supportive parents and family, and a lot of support network here in New York, and the people within the cast and the people who put me in the show. So I felt like I was, I could be confident, kind of fake it at least, that I knew what I was doing. And I'll never forget that. So it was scary and sweaty, and I don't remember a lot of it, honestly. But there was one part where I think it was Been a Long Day, that song from How to Succeed. And in that production, everyone was getting on an elevator and getting off an elevator and da 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 da. And then at the last moment, he's alone on stage. And it's the one time where Bud Frump was just alone on stage, and he turns around and he sings out, been a long day. And I remember seeing all the lights up on the grid there go, like that, right on center stage. And it all happened at the same time. That little kid, who wanted to be there, it all was like right there. I barely got it out of my mouth because it was very moving, and it was a lot, but that was a nice night.
Well, like I said, it's the same thing in this movie too. When people get to relive that, I'm sure when you watch this, you were like, oh my gosh, I felt the same exact way.
Exactly. Totally. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so you got to appear opposite Martin Short not once, but twice on Broadway. First in Little Me, and then, of course, in his show, Martin Short, Fame Becomes Me. Yeah. One of your favorite memories of working with Martin Short?
Oh, God, there are many. And, I love Marty. He's been very, very good to me, and is a real, I didn't mean to make him seem old, but a very father-like figure to me in some ways as well, and a great friend. And, but he's also a nasty nightmare. He's a nightmare. He can really get you on stage, as that can be no surprise. I remember we were doing Fame Becomes Me. There were, I played a lot of parts in it and had to very quick changes. We all did. We had to all very quickly change and then get on and be someone else very, very quickly. And so you sort of are like, you sort of got that energy going. And I remember he was playing his father, and I was playing his brother, or the father's son, right? In this like Christmas dinner scene. It was hilarious. And I remember he would love to dig at me and say, when you get out there, don't ruin it, or whatever, just sort of like, come on, Brooks, pick up the pace. And I remember under his breath one time, as he finished a speech to me, and then I had a line or two to say, oh, Papa, leave me alone, or, whatever. And right as I started saying, oh, Papa, under his breath, he said, you're ruining it. And I started to chuckle, of course. But he is so fun to dig with and spar with, but also talk about someone who's supportive and lovely and hilarious and so talented. And, I love Marty. And I could tell you, I could talk about Marty for, another 24 hours straight.
Totally. We started to talk about like the little homages and the shout outs that are played in this movie of Better Nate Than Ever. There's a big shout out to Bernadette Peters. You did Gypsy with her. How wonderful was that experience of working with Bernadette?
Oh, it was, Bernadette is the best.
Yeah.
There's just no question about it. It was so much fun, so inspiring. Her work ethic, quietly, she doesn't slam it down anybody's throat. She just is always prepared and still open and, spontaneous. And she's a marvelous actress. This is something that most people already know. Obviously, she's a brilliant singer and an interpreter of songs, but she is so sweet and so lovely and a real bright light. And she's a lot of fun too. But it was very inspiring to work with Bernadette, because that was Sam Mendes directed it, and that was, he was sort of very hot at the time, and I remember, so he had a very interesting way of rehearsing certain things, and I remember she was so game. You think you would think like Brenda Peters could say like, we're not gonna sit down on the floor, or whatever, but she was just so game, and it made everyone game, and therefore it upped everyone's game, and it was a beautiful performance. It was the stunning performance, I thought.
Glorious production. Loved you all in that.
Thanks.
Promises. How much fun was it working with Sean Hayes and Kristen Chenoweth?
Well, they're two horrible people, aren't they? Hideous, ugly. That was a ball. That really was. And, that was a show that it wasn't really on my sort of cast album list. I knew some of the songs and stuff. I had never seen a production. So I was sort of like, oh, what is this? I know The Apartment, but blah, blah, blah. And so to have it opened up to me with those two at the helm, and also the rest of the cast was a really great group, was a lot of fun. And I had known Kristen we came to the city around the same time. And, I've known Kristen a long time. So it was nice to sort of reune with her. And I love Kristen. And also to meet, I had met Sean, but I didn't really know him. And to get to know Sean, he's a wonderful, wonderful friend and one of the great guys, honestly. And so it was, we had a ball on that. That was a fun show to do.
Yeah. What is one of your favorite memories of working on and The Prom?
Oh, well, there are a lot. We worked, as you know, we worked on that a long time, and happily so. It was a bunch of old friends working on a new piece, and that's exciting and scary and fun and great. But I think, if I had to, there's a lot of things I could say, but the first thing that comes to my mind is, again, on the friend front, working with Beth Level and Christopher Sieber and Angie Schwar, that foursome, it was just such a luxury to, you could do anything, and that they would pick up and it's like playing, doubles with three great tennis players. It was a full-on joy to work with them all the time. And it was hard to do, and we're not young, and it was fun to have people to commiserate with after the show and be like, what part of your body hurts tonight? And all of that. But it was to work with them. I loved working with the young people, the KC, everybody, but that's the real shining thing, because there's the most of my work was with them. And, it was so great. I was so proud of them, and, it was fun.
Just terrific. Well, before we sign off, what are you the most excited for in people seeing this film, A Better Nate Than Ever?
Well, I think, the initial thing that comes to my mind is that they will be exposed to this beautiful story, and this beautifully told story in a cinematic fashion, that it is, again, it's a real comfy movie. There was something about, like you said, that first shot and throughout, I just felt well taken care of, and I felt comfy, and I enjoyed it very much. I think and I was very moved by it, as we've spoken about. For me personally, I hope people come away with it seeing a major new voice from Tim Federle. I just think he's always, even when he was younger, when we were doing Gypsy, he's always been this guy. It's just, he's not an overnight success. He has worked his butt off for a long time, and he gleaned so many things from so many people he's worked with and put it through his filter. And now here he goes. And I just want to watch him just soar with this. And I hope he's enjoying it. I know he is. And I can't wait for people to be exposed to his voice, truly.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, no one does it better than Disney. I mean, this was really, I was brought up from Mary Poppins on, and every Disney movie since then I got to see. And this is up there with the very best of them. Again, Brooks is appearing in Disney's Better Nate Than Ever, which will stream on Disney Plus beginning April 1st. Brooks, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Rich. It's so nice to see you. I'm glad to see you. And thanks for having me on.
Always. I'll see you soon, my friend.